Yeah, me too. If I could go back 50, 60 years, I'd want to be a songwriter in the Brill Building. I mean, it doesn't get any better. Hoagie Carmichael, Juggy Gale.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the foundations of today's music, really. I mean, everything we're doing today evolved out of that, and you could almost you could make a great case for the Brill Building being a Hall of Fame all in its own right. But
absolutely.
Well, we've got a couple of moments left here before we let you go. I want to thank you, of course, for coming by and spending time with us and talking about your music. Tell us about this next track we're going to play called It's You.
Well, It's You is actually, that's, if I'm going to pick favorites, that's my favorite. I mentioned Gotta was number 2. This is number 1. It was the first one that was commercially released, and I was blessed enough to have Nashville get behind this. It took 10 months, but they know what they're doing. They don't rush things. They just say, trust us.
Right.
So it's a very, very, very tight community, as you know, and a very tough nut to crack. But once they take you in, as long as you do things right, and I played ball and everything else, and I was patient, and I got this to indie number 1. I got this on the biggest, at the time, the biggest top 40 indie chart in the world was run out of Nashville, and I got this to number 1 10 months after release. So I was floored when I found out.
I bet you were. Well, again, we want to thank you so much for coming by and seeing us, talking with us, telling us about your music. You mentioned that you're going to be around fourth quarter of this year, first quarter of next year. You're going to be releasing some new stuff. Maybe we can prevail upon you to come back and share, if not debut it with us. And definitely like to have you come back and do just that.
I would love that, guys. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Stay in touch. I always tell our guests one of the social media pages we have is on Facebook. It's just The David Bowers Awards. It's a group's music page that is there specifically for our guests and other music people to post their new music, their play dates, whatever they've got that they want to share. That's what it's there for, and we'll pick it up and spread it around to our other social media sites. Ray Powers, thank you so much for being here, and I guess this is appropriate. The out song for this, It's You.
Wasn't born with the keys to a kingdom. That's okay, I'm not looking to reign. Never wanted a parade, always thought I had it made. Getting by to make the grade. Nothing else in the world like contentment. What a life when you get what you need. Then it hit me from behind, plain as day and twice as bright. Now I know what makes a life. Baby, it's you. You're the kiss at the end of the movie. It's you. Sun that sets at the end of the day. It's you. You're the reason that I'm lying awake. You're the icing on the cake. You're the shimmer on the lake. The only heart I wanna take. Baby, it's you. It's you. Couldn't say that it felt like a rescue. Wouldn't say I was drifting away. That's the beauty of desire. There's no better natural high, and it's been there all the while. Baby, it's you. You're the kiss at the end of the movie. It's you. Sun that sets at the end of the day. It's
It's You. That's Ray Powers right here on the David Bowers Awards. And we're so glad to have had him come by. Great to meet him. Another great artist on the list of the many that we've been fortunate enough to bring you here on the David Bowers Awards. We've got another one lined up for you coming up in just about, 3.5, 4 minutes or so, right after we listen to a track by them. They call themselves Deltaphonic. You're going to find them a little funkier, a little bluesier, and I think you're going to like them. We'll be talking to Andrew Weeks from Deltaphonic right after we listen to Liars. That's Liars. They call themselves Deltaphonic. And here to talk about them is Andrew Weeks. Andrew, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing just fine, thanks. And great sound you've got there. Really like it. I like most of the artists that we have on here. We get our guests from mostly from one of two ways: either referrals, or agents call us or write us and say, "Hey, I've got this artist I'd like to have on," or in my scouting around, listening to music all over the place, I'll hear something and I'll say, wow, this is an artist I want to get on the show. And yours was one of the latter there. Although I've worked with Doug a lot, I heard your music and I told Doug, I said, yeah, I'd really like to get this group on. And lo and behold, here you are. Glad you could be with us. Tell us a little bit about, well, our pleasure. Tell us a little bit first about Deltaphonic.
Yeah, Deltaphonic is a New Orleans our core lineup is a trio these days. I'm the band leader. I sing and I play a hybrid guitar, much similar to what Charlie Hunter plays. It's actually made by a company he owns part of, but it's 3 bass strings and 3 guitar strings in different octaves with a pickup that puts them out through different jacks. So I basically play bass as well as slide guitar, and then we have a lead guitarist, Paul Provosti. He used to be in the band Earfunk, who's a phenomenal player, and then Trenton O'Neill on drums. But then we also have a bunch of other collaborators who you can hear on the album there, some real heavy hitters.
And what is the album? What is the album name?
The album is called The Funk, the Soul, and the Holy Groove.
The Funk, the Soul, and the Holy Groove.
I like
Great
it.
title.
I love it.
Do you also create the titles, or is that somebody else's department?
Yeah, I came up with it. It's taken from the last verse of one of the songs on the album, Don't Have to Be Good. And the last verse is sort of parody of the Lord's Prayer.
Right.
In Hill Country Blues form.
How long have you guys been together in your current form?
About 3 years-ish, 2 to 3 years. This album that we're just releasing now with Liars is sort of our, introduction to a bigger scale thing. We put a lot of time into making the album with the intention of sort of, reaching a much larger audience.
Well, you've got a good start. You've got a good sound to do it with. John Bon Jovial.
Yeah, I was listening to the song, Andrew, and it kind of, I'm not sure how far back you go in years, but back in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a band called 10 Wheel Drive, and they had a real funky sound to them, and this kind of smacked of that, and I say that as a high compliment because I was always a big fan of theirs. And so I think you're doing the sound. You may not sound exactly like them, but you got that genre, and I think you're doing it justice.
Thank you. Yeah. Did you only hear Liars?
That's I'll tell you what we tell every artist. By design, David doesn't let me listen to the music. poor pitiful me. But he doesn't let me listen to the music until the actual show itself. So it's the opinion that I give is going to be a first reaction opinion. And there's some stuff that really stinks, and I'm not going to come out and say that. I'm kind. But if it's something that I really am enthusiastic about, I'll talk about it, I'll gush about it, and I do. I truly do like what you're doing.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. I was just saying that is the most funk, straight up funk track on the album. A lot of the rest stuff is more hill country kind of blues, rock and roll sound, but still with the funky grooves. But yeah.
But do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube and look up 10 Wheel Drive. I think you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I remember them. You're based out of New Orleans. You obviously will play a lot in New